I don't think you're going to see a whole lot of new regulations coming through at the federal level.
Members of Congress have the inside knowledge on regulations and contracts that can all lead to major moves in the market.
What portion of that budget is going into cybersecurity?
Somewhere around $15 billion.
While some lawmakers might use those insights for their own investments.
The demand for energy in the United States is going to explode as data centers are being put together.
Senator Mike Rounds, the chair of the Armed Forces Cybersecurity Subcommittee, is pulling back the curtain.
It's those turbines that are part of the supply chain that we can't get enough of.
He shares some critical insights and potential catalysts in cybersecurity, energy, and AI.
We've got to be one step ahead of China all the time. We produce the best chips in the world.
An inside look at some of the biggest conversations happening behind the scenes on Capitol Hill. Let's dive in.
We're so happy to have a special guest with us today. Senator Rounds, thank you so much for being here today and sharing more with investors out there. We have a huge audience of retail investors all over the world who are very interested in cybersecurity. The sector has been crazy in the market recently, and I know you have a lot of knowledge in cybersecurity. You have been the chairperson of the Armed Services Subcommittee on Cybersecurity.
Right.
So tell me a little bit about this committee and some of what you do.
We're trying to make sure that members of the Senate get as much education as possible so that they understand the reasons for the increases in spending that we will be doing at the Department of Defense level and really in Homeland Security as well. It's a really big part of protecting normal people just trying to go about their daily lives.
Yeah, there's a lot of investment coming to this area. We are absolutely going to cover that on this conversation today, talking about all the new investment coming to cybersecurity. I want to go back and give a little history. In the time that this subcommittee has been around and you've been a part of it, how much of an increase in investment and interest have you seen from the federal level into cybersecurity?
More than double. With regard to the amount of investment, but the amount of attention is significant. It used to be when we talked about defending our country, we talked about defending based on air, land, or sea threats. Today we talk about 5 different domains. We talk about air, land, and sea, space, and cyberspace. And yeah, it's not going to be long, and we're going to be including quantum as an entirely different part of the spectrum as well. But cyberspace is where the threats are at today, and part of it is because it's the most inexpensive of any of the domains in which to get into other people's businesses. So if you're a bad guy and you want to find a way to cause a problem for our Department of Defense, you get in and you mess with computer systems. If you want to steal money, you try to get in and you do something with regard to cyber on a computer system, trying to get people to do foolish things like giving up passwords and those types of things. A lot of bad guys out there find this very lucrative, and they're successful in what they do, or they wouldn't continue to do it.
I want to go back to the budget discussion too. The biggest defense budget we've ever seen, $1 trillion for the next fiscal year.
Yeah.
What portion of that budget is going into cybersecurity? How much of an investment?
Probably somewhere around $15 billion specifically into cybersecurity activity. You're going to see it increase again in the next couple of years. But the reason why I talk about it in terms of expenses, once you've got the tools in place, you can upgrade your tools, and then it's manpower and it's a matter of making the systems work. There will be additional costs involved as we move with more artificial intelligence, machine learning. The bad guys are using that now, so we're going to have to be able to defend against that. It's as much about trying to coordinate between businesses and the public sector so that we can share information, coordinate information, let people know what's going on with regard to what the newest tools are that the bad guys are using to try to get into computer systems.
Yeah, that sharing of information means that you are talking to a lot of these private sector companies too. And I know one of the hottest topics right now in cybersecurity is deregulation and what that could mean for growth. What kind of insights can you share on what that could look like?
You know, most of when we talk about deregulation, we're talking about what rules are being put in place for private sectors with what they have to do. I don't think you're going to see a whole lot of new regulations coming through. At the federal level, I don't expect that. But I do think that there has to be a coordination of getting information back and forth and sharing information. I've just introduced legislation, as a matter of fact, that would reinvigorate the Cyber Information Sharing Act of 2015 and we want to continue that forward. And that would provide those local companies with the ability to have liability protection for sharing information about cyber attacks on their businesses with the federal government and also with other businesses so that we can get ahead of new threats. And it also means that the federal government shares with those businesses what they're seeing going on. We also do a program called Defend Forward, where we, because other countries outside of the United States want the United States to help them with their cyber protections of their own government programs, we get to go out and look, when they give us permission, at who's trying to get into their computer systems. We learn what the bad guys are doing, whether it's China or Russia, North Korea or Iran. We'll bring that information back here and we will then publicly share with other companies so that they can patch areas where the bad guys are getting into that particular type of software.
Very interesting. Another thing I want to talk about that could impact the private sector from the public is looking at that budget, that $18 billion cybersecurity investment from the Department of Defense. Where does that go? What are some areas? What does that look like?
Well, a lot of it will go into personnel, because what we have to do is we've got to train individuals. They come through from all of the different armed services. Each of them has their own separate group of people that are being trained in that. They will go back in and they will become part of the coordinated effort for the National Cyber Team. And then we will bring into that the types of equipment that we need in order to actually stay ahead of the bad guys, to be able to detect it. I tell people, we have the Department of Defense Internet, the network for it, and we call it the DODN. And part of our job is to defend this DODN, which has literally hundreds of thousands of contacts throughout the world. What we try to do is to identify what the weak links are, and then find a way to protect it or to take away the weak link. But when you've got that many areas where bad guys try to get in, some of them are going to get in. And so you not only have to have a really good outside shield, so to speak, stopping them, but then you've got to have the cat on the inside trying to find them. And so you have different tools that look for these characters while they're inside.
So there's a human resource, right? A lot of cybersecurity is humans actually getting on their keyboards and protecting us that way. What other areas of investment do we see in cybersecurity? Is it data centers? Is it chips?
Yeah, look, it's all of the above. But part of it is, and let's just talk about artificial intelligence for a minute. It's to the point now where your computers are actually programming the computers. And the software that used to be all written by an individual, a lot of it is now being written by a computer. But you have to train that computer in order to do it. Artificial intelligence takes up a huge amount of energy and a huge amount of power in order to operate. You've got to have high-speed compute, which means newer chips, faster chips, but also the capacity to hold a huge amount of memory and access that. Data banks suddenly become really important, and you want those data banks in secured areas. We also have to have power being generated nearby. If you take a look in South Dakota right now, you'll find substations where you have data banks sitting right next to them. Why? Because you don't have to put in a whole lot of new infrastructure to move a whole lot of power when it's available from a substation into a data center.
Yeah, so there's development in AI that goes hand in hand with cybersecurity. They're really very well connected right now.
They are, and it's not going away. I talk to people about artificial intelligence and they say, there's some really dangerous things there. That's true. There are some things there that are very, very sensitive, but it's not going to go away. So we have to manage it correctly. And it means we have to have the right types of laws in place, and we have to have the right types of technologies to monitor what the bad guys are doing with artificial intelligence as well. It's not just us that's developing it. The standards are also being developed in China. They use a different set of standards than we do. A lot of theirs is based upon a police state, being able to monitor, detect, and follow very carefully what their people are doing so that they can reward the people that are doing good things and they can punish people that are doing bad things. We don't want that kind of stuff going on here in the United States. We want a different set of standards that protects privacy and so forth. But that means then that on an international basis, we've got to be one step ahead of China all the time. We produce the best chips in the world. We think we have the best transitions in terms of the software itself. We're developing lots of software here, but we've got to stay one step ahead of China all the time, or the next generation loses out.
What's your take on what's been happening with policy changes and blocking the chips going to China?
Look, the two different concepts. The first one is, let's not give them anything, and then they'll fall farther behind. But what China will do then will be develop their own chip technology, and they'll put emphasis on that, and they will become a competitor for us in terms of a lot of the chips. The other side of that argument from many of our chip providers is, look, we're not going to sell them our high-end chips, but we'll sell them one level back farther down so that they don't see the need to try to develop their own chip manufacturing process right away, and we'll still make money by selling these chips over there. That seems to have won out so far. And we are selling chips to China, but we're not selling the high-end chips to China. They'll find ways in which to use these chips that we are selling them. They'll put them together, they'll add them together, they'll use new software, but we'll learn from them as to how to make those chips more efficient as well. In the meantime, it's a matter of who is going to continue to develop the next set of chips, what the chips are going to be made of, how you coordinate them, how you bring them together. We're probably the best in the world at that right now, and we want to stay that way. The other piece on it, and it's hard to work our way through without talking about it, is it requires energy, and you have to have all the energy you can possibly get. The demand for energy in the United States is going to explode as data centers are being put together. We can't do enough natural gas production and build the plants fast enough to meet the need. We can't get a hold of enough of the turbines that work with the natural gas plants. We can get some, we can't get enough. We need wind power because we can put wind power in place faster than we can other types of energy production. So you're going to see a continued and an increasing amount of wind power, even though it's inconsistent. If you can get enough wind power in different areas, you can make a consistency out of a whole bunch of inconsistent locations, if that makes sense.
It does. One thing we talk about a lot on the channel are nuclear stocks and all of the investment happening in nuclear. From a federal perspective, are there some changes happening with regulations that are going to benefit some of those nuclear companies?
Absolutely. It just takes too long to get done. And so we know right now that we've been doing nuclear power in our submarines for generations. We can take that in the small modulars, that approach, and do more small modular nuclear reactors. But we still run into the same problem, and that is a supply chain issue. You still got to have the turbines that actually generate the steam when you're using nuclear power. It's those turbines that are part of the supply chain that we can't get enough of in a short period of time today. We will have them, and over the next 10 to 15 years, that is the right direction to go. But in the meantime, the next 5 to 10 years, wind power is going to be a huge part of our energy security.
Interesting. So many good insights. I feel like I could talk to you forever about all the different industry insights that our viewers could really learn from here. Any other insights you want to share on just the overall investment and continued growth into cybersecurity, AI, these fields?
I think there's a fear out there with regard to artificial intelligence. And I tell people, look, get past the fear, get into the management stage of this. It's not going away. And we have to decide, are we going to get in and monitor it, maintain it, and utilize it? Or are we going to let our adversaries do that? And if we let our adversaries do it, we don't catch up. Artificial intelligence is real. We have to utilize it. If we do, we're going to find some problems, but we're going to see some real improvements in our quality of life as well. And the one that I continue to come back to is healthcare and our federal budget. We spend way more than what we bring in today, and we've got $37 trillion in debt. One of the areas that drives that is Medicare and Medicaid. Medicare and Medicaid is almost $1.5 trillion a year in expenditures. But if you use artificial intelligence correctly, you can, number one, identify and diagnose diseases faster. You can treat diseases faster. You can cure diseases that may have never been curable in the past. And we're talking about in the next 5 years. And so for me, I'm optimistic. I want to see that improvement in the quality of life. I want to see somebody who is on Medicaid actually have the same healthcare capabilities because of artificial intelligence as somebody who has private insurance. And that is doable if we embrace what can be artificial intelligence combining with biomedical technologies as quickly as possible.
There's so much development happening right now. We talk about the companies that are behind a lot of that research all the time. Well, Senator, thank you so much for your time today. This was a great conversation, a lot of good insights for our viewers. We so appreciate you.
Appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
So many insights from this conversation that can really be valuable for investors. Some of the things that stood out to me were him sharing more about the cybersecurity budget and how much investment is going to be coming from Washington alone. And then also what he had to say about energy. A lot of different stock names came to mind with some of what he said about the supply chain for energy and the new deregulation happening in nuclear. So I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments. What are some stocks that came to mind as we had this conversation with the senator today? And also, what were some of your favorite insights that he shared from Washington? I'd love to hear from you in the comments. And if you are wondering how this interview came about today, it's really because of you, our subscribers. The more people who subscribe to this channel, the better guests and bigger guests we're able to get on this show. So thank you to everyone who subscribed. If you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, hit the subscribe button. It really helps us to get bigger guests and even better content on the show. Thanks again for watching today and every day, everyone. As always, happy investing.